Are you struggling to build your brand awareness and be consistent on social media? Do you have a podcast that you'd like to get more content from that can also help you be more consistent online? In this video, I'm gonna show you how I get 20 pieces of content from one podcast episode. So if you already have a podcast, the great news is you should already have the video and the audio edited, maybe even posted and ready to go. But then the next thing that you need to make sure you have are your thumbnails. Your thumbnails in horizontal, vertical, and square. These are going to be critical for the things that I'm going to mention in a moment. The next thing that I do is I decide how many video clips I actually want from this particular episode. So my podcast typically has a guest, and I've decided that I want 4 video clips from each one of my guests. It can be sharing tips, highlights, or just insightful things that my audience will engage with. Then I decide that I want 2 video clips of myself. This can be me asking a question or even giving a highlight myself. And then I will also like 2 audiograms. Now I use the audiograms with the thumbnails as a way to promote the podcast episode, maybe before and a little bit after it's been promoted. And this can be just a segment within the podcast that was very interesting that I want other people to interact with. You can use any one of those thumbnails, the horizontal, the vertical, or the square versions to be able to create those audiograms and post it on your social media. Sorry for the interruption, but if you would be interested in receiving content repurposing tips, ideas, and tutorials on a consistent basis, I'm starting a new WhatsApp community where I'll be sending out new tutorials on a bi-weekly basis to help you learn how to continue to repurpose your content. If you're interested, check out the description below. Let's get back to the video. So now we've decided the video content that we want. The next step is to determine what written content that you want. And this is a critical step that people miss. So I decide that I want 2 carousels, 2 quote graphics, as well as 2 questions. By creating carousels, you're putting together information in one post, and this can be different images from the podcast. This can be the various tips that your guests give, or you can just give various quotes all in one, and you can add this onto Instagram, TikTok, and platforms like LinkedIn. It's not very difficult if you have a podcast, especially if it's longer form, to get 2 quotes out of it. I've chosen 2 quotes, but you can get as many as you want. Quotes can be a bar that your guest dropped, or maybe something that you said that was insightful that you would like to share again. Then I have 2 questions. I like to have these questions to post as individual graphics to get engagement from my audience. Maybe it's a question that my guest presented, or an additional question that I have that I like to hear more from my audience. The next portion of written content that you can get from your podcast are going to be emails and blogs. So I said I'll do 2 emails and 1 blog. Your emails can consist of updating people that you have a new podcast episode out, and maybe you do an additional one with some key takeaways that you had and things that they can implement, maybe even a product or a service that your guest is offering that you like to give to your audience via email. Now, a blog is a great way to improve your SEO for your episode. You can take a transcript of your episode or use AI like ChatGPT to give a description of what took place, along with a link to the video and or audio of your podcast. And having that online is a great way for people to find the information that you are sharing on your podcast. Do you have a podcast? Go ahead and drop the link in the comments. I love to take a look at it and maybe even suggest a couple ways that you can expand your podcast content. So let's review the things that we've done. We have our podcast episode. We decided that we want 4 clips from our guest. We want 2 clips from the host. We're also gonna have 3 different thumbnails, which is gonna be horizontal, vertical, and square. We'll also use that to create 2 audiograms. We're gonna create 2 different carousels, 2 quote graphics, as well as 2 question graphics. Following that up with 2 emails, as well as 1 blog. And this is just 20 pieces of content that I have determined that I wanted. But there's so much more that I could do. But the trick is you wanna make sure that you determine how much you can actually produce on a consistent basis. So you want to make sure that what you're pulling out of your podcast is something that you, or maybe even your editor, can actually accomplish. And I'd love to help you out with that. If you look in the description below, you can get access to my content strategy guide, where I will give you a PDF that will help you plan out exactly the content that you want to take out from your podcast on your weekly or bi-weekly or even monthly basis to help you increase your brand awareness and build your personal brand. Are you an entrepreneur or a speaker that wants to build your brand awareness and be more consistent online without always having to create new content? That's something that I can also help you with. In the description, you'll find a link where you can book a call with me so we can chat about your options. Check out this video right here or right here where I explain to you how I incorporate AI into my workflow.